What's up, YouTube? It's Johnny Busket. I got a new video for you guys. Something a lot of us who play DCDB we've been waiting for, and that's the Season 18 update. I received this info from Robert earlier this week, so we're going to dive into the MC changes, the main deck changes, the supervillain changes, and maybe we'll get a chance to kind of talk about that afterwards in a separate video. But I wanted to get this information to you guys as soon as I could. So for those of you that are new to Cube, it's just a competitive variant of DC deck builder. You can draft multiple main characters. It combines different cards and effects from other sets of DCDB. The goal is to create a competitive and balanced version of DC Deck Builder while enjoying everything from all the sets, right? So if you're interested in figuring out how to play this, I have links for that in the description. If you want to get into the community to play with others, I have that in the description. Go check that out for the different links there. So I'm gonna have to start with some rule updates first, just so y'all understand kind of where these changes are coming from and a little bit about what they had in mind. If I start just jumping into some of these changes, you're gonna be like, well, is that a part of the cube now? Yes it is. So just starting off with supervillain first appearance attacks. From now on, any supervillain that does not explicitly say so, they will deliver weaknesses to anybody who can't fulfill the effects unless they defend. Right, so when I say that, I'm talking about people like Deathstroke, people like Calculator. I'll zoom in on those for you guys. So Calculator says each player discards all cards with cost 5 or greater. So if you are not able to discard a card with cost 5 or greater, you will take a weakness instead. Same thing for Deathstroke. Each player reveals his hand and destroys a hero, superpower, or equipment in his hand or discard pile. Usually you get off scot-free if you don't have any, right? Now you'll take a weakness for not being able to fulfill that penalty and you did not defend. If you defend, you're all good, just like normal. So what they're doing is making all cards kind of like this Terra here. Each player destroys 2 cards they control for each who cannot gain a weakness. So when you're thinking about the supervillains in Season 18, all of them will be like that. If you can't fulfill the punishment or defend this card, you will take a weakness instead. So if something like, spoiler alert, Power Ring would come up, each player destroys the highest cost hero in their hand and discard pile. If you can't do either of those, you will take 2 weaknesses, right? One for the one in your hand and one for the one in your discard pile. So that's something a lot of us will have to get used to with this season. Some of us have already been testing around with that and gotten a little used to it, but that is something new when it comes to supervillain attacks. This also leads me to another change of passing cards or cards that have the text for you to pass a card to someone else. Tongue twister. You are not able to pass any cards to your opponents. So the way this works is if a card has text about you passing a card, you would ignore it like it's not even there. So that takes me to another spoiler alert, Gentleman Ghost. This is one of the new supervillains that says put all cards with cost 0 from your discard pile into your hand, then you may pass a card from your hand into the discard pile of each foe. If you end up playing this card, you will not pass any cards to anyone. You will just put all cards with cost 0 from your discard pile into your hand. That's all he'll do. Now for another new change, teamwork. There is no more paid teamwork. Any MC that reads teamwork, that foe gains 1 VP. The ability can no longer be used. Okay, the character's other abilities work as normal. Golden Glider, for instance, you won't be able to do her paid teamwork, but if you play a card that you don't own, you will be able to draw a card. Alright, so nothing else has changed outside of the teamwork effects are no longer a thing. You will not be able to pay a VP to play the top of someone's deck using an MC. That is gone. Now that's it for now when it comes to the rule changes. I think that's enough context for us to jump into the new tiers, the new MCs, right from those rule changes that we went over. So let's flip these over. These are your new tiers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you notice right off the bat, we have someone back in the 6th category, an old friend. But these are the only MCs that were banned. I know there was a lot of talk during testing about promo MCs being banned. They were not. Only Felicity Smoke, Captain Cold, and Heatwave have been banned, right? So those are gone and no longer in any tiers. Now for the additions. In tier 1, some of you have seen this card. Zaytara 15 is now in tier 1 of the MCs. You may look at the top card of your deck at any time. Alright, that literally means at any time. So whether it's your opponent's turn, whether it's your turn, whether you're fulfilling a card's current text, it doesn't matter. This can interrupt anything. For instance, if you were playing Penguin, but if you put Penguin down and before you actually went to draw your 2 cards, you could look at the top of your deck. After you draw your 2 cards and before you discard 2 cards, you can look at the top of your deck. So that being said, it automatically should get you thinking about how you can reset your deck in situations like that. If there was cards you want to dump outside of your deck when it's shuffled, or if you wanted to shuffle before, or there's a lot of different things that can happen that you can interrupt with this card. So that's really great. Some people were saying it's kind of overpowered. I don't think so. I think it's right at home at a 1. It's a really good ability and could be really fun in a lot of different ways, but it's definitely not broken to where it needs to be. Taken out of 1s. Now there's another couple lines on this card. Each time you or your teammate plays a hero during confrontation, you may discard the top card of your deck. So yes, you want to be aware of that ability as well. The other addition to tier 1 is Superman 12. So let's pull him out. At the start of each of your turns, if you have fewer than 5 cards in your hand, draw a card. Alright, so that's also another neat ability. If you're a team that really needs to have 5 cards in your hand at the start of your turn, I played around with a couple. He's a great card. Now, once you get down to 3 or maybe even 2, 1 card may help, but it's nothing like having 5 in your hand from the effect of a Slade Wilson or something like that. But he's a good substitute just at the 1 tier. The last addition to the MCs is Darkseid. Welcome back, Darkseid. He's now a 6 though. Once during each of your turns, you may destroy a card with cost 1 or greater in your hand or discard pile. If you do, you get +2 power and you draw a card. So many of us got so sick of seeing him with Ocean Master right at the beginning of season 17. So they immediately took it out and we didn't have to worry about it for the rest of the season. He is back at a 6. If you play him, he will be the only MC you have. So enjoy. I don't know how you guys will feel about that. I've never really been a fan of Darkseid, so I don't feel a way about it. But he is now at a 6. So those are your 3 additions. Darkseid at 6, Superman and Zatanna at 1. Now for your tier changes. There was no one that entered tier 1 from a separate tier, so we'll go right into tier 2 changes. So the changes for tier 2, we have Deathstroke coming down from 3 into tier 2. We have John Diggle coming up from tier 1 into tier 2. A lot of these defense teams got broken up, as you'll see, but he is one of those cards that got moved around. Lightning Lad, he is coming from 3 into 2. We have Mirror Master, who's also coming from 3. Red Lantern Supergirl, who's coming from 3. Saturn Girl, who's coming from 3. Simon Baz, welcome back to tier 2. He was moved up, but now he's moved back down into tier 2. And Starfire from Crisis 2. She is now tier 2 as well. Tier 3, the Batman that I rescued after season 16. He is now a 3. I know some people already have teams in mind for him. He's going to be a great addition to the tier 3 MCs. Cosmic Boy, he's also moving down from the 4 into the 3s. Golden Glider, now with the teamwork change, she is being moved down to 3. Remember, as I said, the only thing that changed is that you can't do the teamwork effect and give someone a VP to play the top of their card. Each time you play a card you don't own, you still get to draw a card, so she's fine there. Ocean Master, he's moved up from a 2 and he is now a 3. So all the teams that you guys came up with last season are now broken up. So sorry, but he is a tier 3 card. Roy Harper, he's moved down from 4s into 3s. Saint Walker, I've already heard some grumbles about this one. Saint Walker is now a 3 as well. There may be some tier 3 teams you can come up with. I'm not sure of what you can do from 1, 2, or 3 with Saint Walker, but he'll probably get a little play just for that destruction effect for all those hero teams. And the final change for this tier is Stargirl's tiers everywhere. If you know me, you know I like to play defense teams, and she was a center of those. I still have a few in mind. Unfortunately, Stargirl is now a 3. That's it for tier 3. Let's go ahead and tier 4. So in tier 4, there was no one that came down from 5. So I know we were hoping for Plastic Man to go down into 4s, but he is still a 5. Everyone else are characters that came up from 3. So they were tier 3 last season, now they'll be tier 4. You should see them right off the bat, the first 3. Arsenal, he's up. Aquaman from the base set, he's up into 4. Aquaman from Dark Knight's Metal, he's up into 4. I know a lot of people were having tons of fun playing him as a 3. He has so many different interactions that are really cool, and you can stack anything on top of your deck, which is really strong for a 3 cost. But he is now a 4. Bane is also up into a 4. People were thinking he would get banned, and he's still there. Booster Gold and Donna. I'm just gonna cover them together. Both of them came up from 3s. Defense teams got hit really hard. They were seeing a lot of play in tournaments and were quite effective in some cases. But they are now up from 3. They are 4s. Oliver Queen, he's moved up into a 4. Roy Harper went down. Oliver Queen went up, so that's pretty funny. They switched spots there. Superman. All those +1s for the superpowers you play will be done from a tier 4 now. Weather Wizard is a 4 from 3. So of course that Arsenal Weather Wizard team got broken up. They're both now 4s. Now one of the bigger changes I've seen in this whole thing, which is pretty funny considering how last tournament went, Harley Quinn is a 5 now. I don't know what you'll play her with. I mean, her effect is pretty good as is. Each time you discard a card on anyone's turn, you can draw a card. So that's pretty cool. I don't think there's anything you can outright pair with her from tier 1. That would just be amazing, or as amazing as Harley Batgirl, of course. So she's now a 5. Those are all the changes for the MCs. Overall, the way I feel about the changes, considering the promos like Hit Flash didn't get taken away, I feel a lot better. I mean, when I thought that was the case, I thought for sure this would be a little bland, but hearing those are staying in there, that's gonna give us more options, and I think that's what we need. We need more options. I would like to see the teams people come up with, because they work really hard to make sure things are balanced, but you guys work even harder at finding things that are just amazing. So I'm always interested when cards get moved around to see what becomes the top tier teams, right? We still have the Cyborg, Orion, and Starfire team in there. We still have a few other things in there. From playing with the people I was testing with, I'm sure you guys will come up with something, and it'll be just as fun to play with those teams. I would like to see a broadened horizon when it comes to really amazing teams, just so we all could be playing something different at a table, but still be highly effective based on the way the game goes. But we'll see how it turns out. I think we'll still have some fun to be had. I was disappointed at first with some of the changes, but now considering where it landed finally, I'm an optimist though, so we'll see how it goes. Now we're going to talk about the main deck. So just like before we got to the MCs, I'm going to throw out some of these rule changes just so you have context. Anytime a card says choose a foe or attack a specific foe, you won't choose anyone. That attacks everyone. Okay, so when you see it on a card, you just play it as normal, and the attack will affect everyone. You won't just have to choose one person. The next thing are confrontation cards. So anytime a card says confrontation and then follows with an effect, all a player has to do is call out that they're engaging in a confrontation. No, you don't have to buy the boss. No, there's no other special things that'll happen because you start a confrontation. You just now get to enable that effect on that card. Now that brings me back to Zatanna though. If you're playing her and you play a card that has confrontation on it and you're now in a confrontation, anytime you play a hero, you may discard the top card of your deck. And the reason why that's so great for her is that you can just keep looking and you can keep dropping. You keep looking and you can keep dropping with as many heroes as you have. Now just to go in here and look at the additions into the main deck, I want to go ahead and find one of these confrontation cards for you. Here's Carol Ferris. Whenever you play her and you call out a confrontation, you get to put a hero from your discard pile into your hand, just like that. Simple as that, okay? Nothing else special needs to happen. Now that takes me to time travel. So if you're using a time travel card out of the lineup, you can't just discard a vulnerability or a punch anymore. You have to discard a card with cost 1 or greater in order to play a time travel card in the lineup. So that's gonna bring another layer of strategy to it, another layer of depth. You can't just get rid of one of your worst cards in your hand, a punch, weakness, vulnerability. You're probably gonna have to give up a kick or, something to that effect, something that has a little power or something a little more than what a starter or weakness would do. Now, Unity. There are now Unity cards in the main deck. So in the original set, when you played a Unity card, any Unity cards in play that includes your opponents or your teammates for that matter, you will be able to get their effect as well. That does not happen in Cube. When you play a Unity card, the ability only checks for Unity cards that you own. Okay? So if you're sitting there and you have a Unity card in play already that gives you +1 power, if you play blank, you will get +1 power. If your opponent has a Unity card and you play blank, you will get nothing, because it only checks for the cards that you control. There was another note in the update that talked about hand size adjustments during end of turn. So all end of turn abilities trigger simultaneously now. So when we think about a cheetah or something to that effect, all those trigger simultaneously. And that's important because when things happen simultaneously, you get to choose. Right, so any effect that modifies your hand size will occur after that, and after you have drawn your normal 5 cards like you usually would. So there's full details on that in the rules, section 6.206 or 6.207, and the revised end of turn procedures in section 8. So you can go check that out word for word. The last change I need to cover is that when a card talks about an event lineup, this will refer to the main deck and the lineup as usual, right? So this multiverse card, and this is usually when that'll be happening, is with multiverse cards. It says that you may add a random card from the event lineup set to the event lineup. So that would just refer to the main deck and the normal lineup. So when you play this card, you get +1 power, you draw a card, and you may add a card to the lineup from the main deck. Simple as that. Let's go ahead and go over this whole stack of additions into the main deck. Talk about these a little bit. So through the rules changes, we've talked about confrontation cards, Unity, cards that say choose a foe. These are the cards that kind of brought those things up, right? So one of the additions, we have Batmobile from Rebirth. We have some Unity cards like Biometric Exosuit or even Omen. We have confrontation cards like Carol Ferris or Book of Parallax. Those are now in the game, so you have to look out for those different effects. We also have Mad Mod down here that talks about choosing a foe. Once again, when you attack, that's just going to hit everybody. You have failed this city is another one of those. So this card in effect is really Badovian. You're going to get 2 power and everyone has to discard a random card unless they defend. We got ourselves a new location added into the main deck, which is once again a confrontation effect. So this just means on every turn, you'll be able to start a confrontation, you'll be able to draw a card and then discard a card. And that effect doesn't want to be slept on. I've been using that especially with teams where you can top deck right away, and it's pretty cool. So in addition to all these different updates and additions to the main deck, Huntress returns. So those of you that enjoy using Huntress on your villains teams, you can buy her, and when you play her, you'll be able to destroy a card for each villain you bought that turn. She's back. All in all, I'm pretty satisfied with the additions. We've been needing more spice into the main deck, and this was a great way for them to do that, just adding different keywords. I was skeptical about confrontation at first, but seeing the way it ended up, I'm pretty satisfied with it. And on that note, that takes me to the ban cards. Right off the bat, one of the ban cards I'll talk about is Ganthet. If he would have made it in here with confrontation being the way it was, he would have been broken. You would have been able to play 2 cards out of the lineup as soon as you play him, and that just would have been ridiculous. So I'm glad they, saw through that and were able to go ahead and ban that right away. Now for the ban cards in general, I'll tell y'all right off the bat, some defense cards were removed. Well, Zookeeper, Flight, Acrobatic Agility, Shadow, Calderon, who just made it in on season 17, he's gone. Blue Devil and Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle got removed as well, so that's 1 less reveal defense. We did get one with the addition of Monel, who's also a 6 cost time travel card, but Blue Beetle is gone. Scandal is gone. Those of you that would get really comfy having Scandal sitting in front of you as an ongoing, just rotating that thing away, she's gone now. So that moves me right into the other big cost cards that have also been removed. I talked about Ganthet, Big Stone is gone, White Lantern Corps, Black Lantern Corps, but also the lineup destruction cards like Rioters, Hollis Mason, Reconstruction, and Owlship. Those cards are gone too. A few of the cards we got really used to loving, Beta Club, X-Ray Vision. The unique things you could do with Plastic Man, he's gone. Also, the new Plastic Man is gone from Dark Knight's Metal. There's a few cards from Dark Knight's Metal that were removed that I enjoyed as well. Oblivion Bar is gone. Fair Play. Of course, we knew Nth Metal Mace wouldn't last long. That card is amazing. It's so broken. That's gone. Clayface, Black Manta. Sunblade, another really amazing card that just had to be removed at some point. Another defensive card in the Flash. That takes me into our locations. So Azarath is gone. New York City, no more buying from the destruction pile. I think any hope of getting anything from the destruction pile is now gone. and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But along with that are the Forever Evil +1 power for different type locations. Those are gone. We have some other cards here, but as you can see right off here to the side, we have lost 4 power rings. So Orange Lantern is gone, Black Lantern is gone, White Lantern is gone, and Blue Lantern is gone. We've seen teams and players really take over and win a game at the end just because they've swiped a few power rings, 4 or 5 power rings, and that can be really bad in a lot of scenarios. So I think they just wanted to tone that down a little bit. But they also got rid of a couple that interact with the destroy pile to get you a card back. So those are gone now too. Any hope of getting a card from the destroy pile is lost for the most part. I can't think of any other way that you can gain a card from the destroy pile. So I think that is over with. That is all of the cards that were banned for season 18. Comparing the additions and the bans, there's a few, of course, that I would have liked to see stay in, but we've got some new cards added as well. The main deck is now at 414 cards. If you want the stats for those, I'm putting them up on the screen for you now. I believe there's 102 heroes, 102 villains, 102 equipment, and there's about 82 superpowers, 26 locations if I'm remembering right. But those stats should be up for you now to look at. You can grab this image for later. It even shows you the attacks and defenses and things like that, even percentages as it comes to cost. So enjoy that. That may help you figure out some strategies for later on. The last thing I wanted to touch on are the supervillain changes. So let's go ahead and flip the stacks over. These are your new stacks. Here I have the cards that were added, and here I have the cards that were banned. So let's start off with the bans. Clock King is no longer in the supervillain stacks. Cyborg is no longer there. Swamp Thing, Doomsday, Dr. Light, and Harvest are all gone as well. Not a fan of Doomsday. Not a fan of this guy destroying 2 cards off the top of my deck. I've seen people lose 2 bosses. I've seen people lose a boss. I've seen people lose rings, all different types of things. Doomsday has no regard for you or your plan for that game. So I'm not going to miss him. I'm glad we do have some other devastating attacks being added, but I'm not sad to see Doomsday go high. See you later. Dr. Light, he will cause you to get 3 or 4 weaknesses in one sitting as well. So I'm not too disappointed in him disappearing. Harvest is a savage. At 10, you hate to see things this devastating happen like him or Clock King. So those are now gone. They would tell you destroy this type in your hand and this type that you control. For each you cannot gain a weakness. Most of the time you wouldn't be controlling a hero, and you might not even be controlling an equipment. So that would be like destroy a card and gain a weakness basically for you that early in the game. So I'm glad to see those again. Swamp Thing, RP to Swamp Thing, he's no longer in the game whatsoever. We had his base set card in there, that was gone. We had the MC, that was gone. And now the boss card is gone. They made a great change with this season, and that's to add these new 9 costs. They are acting as starter bosses. Anytime you start a game, you may have these cards to start off with as 9 costs. That's Ra's al Ghul, Slade Wilson, and Vandal Savage. Now you're probably familiar with the versions of Vandal Savage and Ra's al Ghul at 8. They are 1 less power and 1 less cost. I play with these new bosses, and I gotta say I love them way more than those 8 costs. They're more effective, they don't feel like a waste, and not to mention that, starting off with having to buy a boss for 11, I really enjoy. I feel like it makes the beginning of the game last a little longer with people setting up their team and ramping up. That little change in 1 power goes a long way when it comes to defeating the first boss, so I've appreciated starting off with them. Blackfire is a new addition as well. Her first appearance attack is each player puts a superpower they control in their hand into the lineup. So now we have 2 Blackfires at boss. Power Ring, I showed you guys that earlier. That's there. Owlman. So I talked about being happy that Clock King was gone now. This is his big brother that doesn't care about anything. He says each player destroys the highest cost equipment in their hand and discard pile. Now don't forget the change for supervillains. Now, if you can't fulfill that, you're just gonna take 2 weaknesses. So you better hope when you have a MC hat or you have some other amazing equipment in your discard pile that he's not destroying that for you. You better just hope you're taking the weakness or you can defend. The last thing I showed you earlier was Gentleman Ghost. Whenever you see him, he's for sure going to be the last card on the stack. So if he's in the boss stack, he is the last card. It's going to be scripted that way, so it won't happen any other way. He will be the last card you will face as a boss. So his attack is each player destroys 2 different cards with cost 1 or greater in his discard pile. Just like we were talking with Owlman a second ago, if you can't do that, 2 weaknesses. Or for each you can't do. If you do one and you can't do the other, for any reason, or if the reason is just you only have 1 card in your discard pile, you will gain a weakness for the other. And once again, just to bring it up one more time, you will not be passing any cards to anyone. So there's really no reason to be playing this card. Some people be thinking, let me stack him so I can draw him and then play him. Then I can pass my weaknesses or pass whatever card. No, you can't pass any cards, so there's really no point. Because once you buy the boss, you can't do anything with that power anyway. Riddler's gone, all those types of different things are gone. So I'll give you guys a quick snapshot of the boss stack. This is your 8 cost stack. So Raish and Vandal are still there in the 8s. They're baby versions, as I would call them. But you now will be able to start off with either 8 or those 9s that were added. So there's the 9s, of course, with the new additions. Your 10s. Your 11s. Your 12s. And finally your 13s. Please keep in mind that Gentleman Ghost will be last on the stack. So alright y'all, that's it for season 18 changes and updates. Please like and subscribe. I want to remind everyone that the invitational is gonna be on November 14th. Link for all that information is in the description. The last chance qualifier is today as I'm recording this, so if you're watching this video, you most likely won't be able to join that. But anyone that does get that qualifier will be able to be in the tournament that is November 14th. I'll be streaming the invitational as well as the last chance qualifier tonight. Make sure you guys follow my Twitch. That's in the description as well. If you have any questions, comments, leave that. That may even turn into a video. So please do that. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.